Nicole Pierce, and we're back for another Career Conversations with Nicole. I have a friend on the call, and her name is Natasha Blum. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Nicole, for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. We, for all the students that don't know, you work at the Georgia Department of Audit and Accounts, and I think it's super cool. So can you tell all the students what you do and what they do, or
Absolutely.
what you do there?
Okay, absolutely. So I actually am the staff development coordinator for the department. So I deal with new hires. I help coordinate training, keeping up with CPE, doing special HR projects. My passion is working with college students. It's what I've been doing for 20 years. So I'm very, very happy to be here today. But as far as what we do for the state, the Department of Audits, we function as the external auditing arm for the state. So we report to the legislature, which gives us independence to go into other agencies and audit them. Our two main client groups are going to be the public education system in Georgia, which are colleges, universities, technical schools, and school boards. So we do Kennesaw's audit.
I love it.
And then we also audit all the state agencies like revenue, correction, transportation, all those that you would think about. They're financial statement audits, but we do a lot of other types of audits, which we probably won't get a chance to talk to you about on this call, like IT audits and performance audits. So we do have a wide variety of ways that people can, audit within our agency. As far as what we produce, the work that we do for the colleges and the state agencies is what is used for the CAFR, which is the annual financial report, which goes to the governor, which is very important for the financial wealth and health of the state.
Ooh, that's so exciting. Well, students, I hope you heard how fun that government work can be. I know sometimes students think of that and don't think that's for them, but I think that sounded really interesting. So if you want, students, pause our video, go ahead and check them out online right now and get a little more information. So we're going to dig into the topic today, and I think this is a good one because a student actually recommended it, and it is what employers are actually looking for. And this is like going to be the secret sauce that's all students want to know and are afraid to ask. So we'll start from the beginning. Resumes first. What are some key things that our employers are looking for on the resume?
Okay. Really, first and foremost, I know that most public accounting firms, corporations that look for accounting students, we go to career fairs, and we want a graduation date and a GPA. Yes. I know it sounds really, really simple and obvious, but it's not always on there. Yeah. The reason this is really important is because I sometimes talk to students who are like juniors, and I follow them through their, educational path, and I love keeping up with students. So I need to know when you're going to be graduating so that I can pull your resume and contact you at an appropriate time. Also, we're looking for, not a lot of students have work experience, which is fine, but anything you've done on campus, any kind of clubs you've been involved in, any kind of leadership that you've taken on, that's also really important. And just making sure that everything just kind of flows. I know that some students use objectives and some students don't, and objectives are fine, but what I want to caution you on is don't make it so specific, because if you really are looking for public accounting or corporate work, that's great, but don't send a resume to a state agency that says, I want to be an auditor for a public accounting firm, because it's not going to really make it into my go pile. Right. So if you're going to make it specific, just make sure that you kind of tailor it to who your audience is.
Yeah, I always agree. I try to tell students, keep it generic. It is too easy to make mistakes when you're sending an email or uploading it to a job portal or whatever. The accidents just happen. We're human. So yes. I love that. That's great. Well, so what are some things that would impress you, like something that just stands out, be the shining star? And then what is something that would totally say, oh, it's going in the no pile?
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, as far as, the reason I love talking to students is everybody is different. Yeah. Some people have a straight path and some others, some not a straight path. Some people have changed their major. Some people have work experience. But whatever you have or haven't done, make sure that you can relate what you've done to what you're interviewing for. So, for example, if, you really love audit because you had an amazing audit professor, either put that in your cover letter or, why you're interested in that company. Do your research, make sure you know who you're interviewing with. And again, that sounds so simple,
right.
But you'd be amazed at how many people come to an interview and I say, well, what do you know about the department? And they'll say, well, I know you audit. And, it kind of falls apart from there. So really just kind of do your research and come with questions.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I really like that. So what, I'm just going to poke a little harder on the resume particularly, though. What is something that would just make it go in the no pile? Is there a GPA cutoff? Is it a spelling error? Is there something for you in particular that really just stands out?
That's a good question. We do have a GPA minimum that we advertise. However, I want to caveat, and that was a good question. That's not a go, no go. I look at the whole resume. I look at what the student has done, what they can bring to the table, because sometimes people are more than just their GPA.
Okay. So, Natasha, the next question we have is all about the networking events, right? And so now it's weird because before we would have been networking at info tables or career fair tables, and now everything is virtual. But what are employers truly looking for in the students when they start to have this interaction?
I love networking events because I think they're more casual than interviews, and I think it's a great opportunity for students to kind of hone in on who they want to apply for. This is the student's time to ask those questions before you get too far down the road. So
that's good.
I think that a student should come with maybe a little bit of preparation so that they know who to focus their time on. Right. But it's also a time to talk to companies that you may not have talked to, and maybe you'll find out that they do something that you never knew about. I'm just going to use us for an example. A lot of people know what public accounting firms do, but talk to somebody that maybe is out of your bubble that you're normally used to, and find out what they have to offer, because it may be something that you never thought of.
I love that. So when you're at these events, does anything stick out in your mind of a way that a student can make a good impression or one that would make a bad impression, just so that they have guidelines to kind of live in between?
I'm probably going to say this so many times during this interview, but doing your research and figuring out who the company is. And I'm not saying that, if you go to our website, you're going to know everything, but just know enough to be dangerous. Right. Don't walk up to somebody and say, hi, my name's Susie and I love tax. What have you got to offer? And I'm the Department of Audits and Accounts, and I've had people do that to me.
Well, we're going to turn to the next step in the process, which is interviews. And, when employers are going through the interview process with students, what is the secret thing that they're truly looking for in those interviews? Because we know they've all had the same education from KSU. Their grades might be different, but the education's the same. And that they haven't had a ton of work experience. So what are you looking for?
Again, I'm going to say it again, the research, but I'm looking for a student who, even if they haven't had work experience, can tie maybe what they've done in class to, what we do at the department. I've had a student say, oh, well, I went onto your website and I read about the CAFR and we talked about the CAFR, and can you tell me this? And to me, that shows that a student not only is looking for a job, but they're interested in a career, that they have a personal connection. And I think that it also, the questions that students ask during an interview, I think also helps an interviewer or an employer when it comes down to decision time, because we can figure out, is what we're selling what the student is actually looking for. Is it a match? Because, students also need to keep in mind that we're interviewing them, but they're interviewing us too. And we understand that.
Oh, so really what I heard in a roundabout way from that is students is that they truly are looking for you to be invested in them. They want to hire the student that is invested in working with them. This is your life and your job, a possible job that you're going to spend multiple hours at. And they want you to have done at least a little bit of research, enough to try to make the connections to prove to them that you are really interested. And I think that's great. I think a lot of the time students freak out because they think that they've got to apply to X amount of jobs, do X amount of interviews in order to land the one, which is true. It is somewhat of a numbers game. But if you condensed your efforts into the areas that you're really interested in, really did the work on the front side, maybe you won't have to go through as many interviews and all of those things because you're actually providing what they want, which I really like. When you're about to make an offer to a student, right? And you have, let's say you have student A and you've got student B. What is it that tips the scale to one of them for the one single offer to go to them?
Yeah, and that's really hard. And there have been times when, we've had just one opening and you've got multiple candidates. And it's not going to be one thing, but I can say, at least for us, it's not necessarily grades. You can have mediocre grades, but you can have either you worked through school or you had some leadership opportunities on campus. You asked some really good questions during the interview. One of the things that we look for is, because all of our auditors, even staff auditors, are very integrated with the client. Can we put this person in front of the client? Were they personable? Did they sell themselves? Were they confident? So, I have had students ask me, they'll call me up if they didn't get a job offer and say, can you give me some feedback? And sometimes it really is just the people that you're competing against. But the one thing that I can say is, if you don't feel like you have the grades, sell yourself, sell what you have. And that may be what tips the scale, because it's all about that, at least in auditing, it's all about that personal relationship. Yeah. And we're looking for team players and people that can express themselves, and that means a lot. It means a lot to us.
Oh my gosh, that is so valuable. Students, I think you really got the recipe here, right? It's not the grades. It's truly, I think, how you can present yourself and make the connection between your desires and your past experiences. And that probably takes a little bit of skill and practice. Also, how you present yourself is going to make a big difference too. But I tell this to accounting students all the time, because typical accounting students aren't, well, some of them are not outgoing. Some of them are. But if this is something that you don't feel like you do well, students, you can practice. We have skills here and resources here at KSU to help you figure this out. There's mock interviews. There's TED Talk or Toastmasters. There's all kinds of opportunities for you to try to practice this to set yourself apart. And I think that is just amazing. Well, Natasha, I thank you for your time. That was my last question. This was so fast. But I always ask all of my guests to please give the students some last bit of advice or thoughts before we jump off.
Okay. So this is one of my favorite parts.
Good.
I am very passionate about people finding their path and finding their graces and what they really want to do. And it doesn't always come on the first try. But I always tell students, please be honest with yourself and what you want. Don't just apply to this company because all your friends are applying or you think they have the highest salary. Think about what you want to do and how you want to get there. And if you're really honest with yourself, you're going to either, you may not land the perfect job the first time, but you're going to eventually get there and it's going to be more meaningful.
So I love that you said that. You must have read all of my literature to the students and all of my emails, because all of mine say that we want for students to find their best fit, and that it's super important to us that, there is no shame or blame or any weird feelings about where you want to go, because what you want is unique to you. So students, I hope you heard that today. I also hope that you will go check out the Georgia Department of Audits and Accounts. I think that the work sounds super interesting. I love governmental work. I think it's great. I obviously work at a university. There's wonderful benefits that go along with that too. So yes, go check them out and apply for whatever they have. And then otherwise, Natasha, I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for the invite, and I really appreciate the time to get to talk to your students. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.